you everybody for joining us again today, and welcome to our 8th episode of Coffee with a Pot of Healing. I'm talking slowly because I've also noticed in the previous recordings that I talk really fast and sometimes I get all jumbled up. I'm teasing. But today we have a great show lined up for everyone. So welcome again and thank you for joining us. My name is Jaime Gomez. Previously, I was with Service Area 7 Administration. I was one of the community health workers there. But now I have the great pleasure to be the supervising community health worker over the PRC and with an awesome team who I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. And I am going to popcorn. I'm going to pick on Veronica because Veronica's our guest today. So I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and allow Veronica to introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay, good. So, yes, my name's Veronica Torok. I am a community health worker at Rio Hondo. I've been here for this October will be 9 years. I did start off as a volunteer prior to that. And slowly, it's possible to move up the ladder. So, but I'm very proud that, I get to share my lived experiences with others, with the staff. I remember in the beginning they used to ask me, "Can we use you as an example?" And yeah, go tell them my story. So, yeah. As far as like, um, I don't know, should I just start talking about C.A.B or if? Oh, popcorn. That's right. So, think I think that's it for now for me to say, but I'm glad. I hope this works out for me because this is the first time I've done something like this. And I think it's like being on a TV, but at home. So, but I'm glad I'm here. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Veronica. And who would you like to popcorn to?
Oh, I get to pick. Oh, okay. Let's see. Evelyn.
Hello. So I'm Evelyn Salas. I'm with the PRC, which is the Peer Resource Center for Service Area 7. I am really happy to be here and excited to be here. I'm the newbie from the team. I have worked for the outside sector for nonprofit sectors with the child population for several years. So I'm really happy to be here and be able to report to the community. So yeah, it's a little bit about me. I am going to popcorn it off to Brigida.
Thanks, Evelyn. Thankful to be back. Nice to see so many familiar faces. Brigida Bridget Salinas, part of the Service Area 7 administrative team. I am the Health Neighborhood Liaison, Faith-Based Liaison, and School-Based Mental Health Coordinator. Excited to be back with my big mug of coffee, and I'm going to popcorn it off to Matilde because I didn't hear her intro.
Hi, everyone. Matilde Gonzalez. I am a peer with the Service Area 7 Peer Resource Center. I'm a community health worker, and I have the pleasure of working with all of these fine individuals. And I would like to popcorn it over to Erica.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us again to another episode. This is great. And it's great to be among great people today. So I'm hoping that everyone gets to enjoy the podcast and you play it again and you play it to your comadre and you play it to your compadre. So my name is Erica. I'm one of 3 coaches for the Great Salt 7 and is so excited to be here so we can share more information about what Veronica can let us know. So I'm going to popcorn to Manny.
Thanks, Erica. Hi, everyone. I am Manuel Rosas. I am the Service Area 7 Chief with the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health. And I do have the pleasure of working with all of these wonderful and talented individuals here. So it's an honor to be here. And thanks for having me. And I guess I'll popcorn over to Vanessa.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vanessa Bustos, and I am a community health worker here in SPAL 7 for the Peer Resource Center. So I'm super excited to be back. It's a really fun space to get some great knowledge and share with our community members. So thank you for the invitation.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for introducing yourselves again and being here. And in the tradition, or what I've learned is the tradition of Service Area 7, I wanted to try something different today. And I really kind of wanted to let somebody else take the lead in the podcast and just me kind of sit back. And this is something that I hope to do every podcast, maybe letting a different team member take the lead. And so I would really like to allow Matilde to kind of take the lead in asking some of our talking points and really getting the conversation going with Veronica. So without further ado, Señorita Gonzalez, uh, you,
Thank you. Don't take taking the responsibility lightly because I'm not. And I appreciate the opportunity as well. So in the short time that I've been working for LA County DMH, which is 4 months now, I've had the great pleasure of working with Veronica on several accounts, not only as kind of the PRC liaison to C.A.B, but as well as staffing several outreach and engagement events outside of that. So it's been great to know her professionally as well as personally. We've shared a lot of great experiences at those events. So I wanted to just start by asking Veronica, what is the Client Advisory Board?
Thank you, Matilde. So basically, the C.A.B, Client Advisory Board, it's made up of clients from the clinic, and they they get together. Well, when they before the pandemic, they would have their weekly, was it bi-weekly? It's changed. That's why bi-weekly um, C.A.B meetings, and they fellowship together. They'd share their experiences. They'd laugh. They would, do many, like, they'd organize themselves to go somewhere together as a group, um, to not feel so isolated. That's one of the reasons why we have C.A.B, because it pulls all of the people, or the persons that come to the clinic and they join this club, or they hear about it. It helps their mental health in a lot of ways, right? Reducing isolation. um I know I'm kind of going off beat, but or off topic, but just to get like a quick brink view, what C.A.B is in a nutshell. They're there for each other. Okay, they help one another out. When one is down, the other one picks them up. When there's conflict, they learn how to uh, make, like, I don't know if amends is a good word, but they learn to get back on track. When one falls off the boat with not being like resilient with something that happens to them, and there's the group, the C.A.B, that helps them come back together, right? And it's been good because since I've been here, and I took, like, became the overseer, it was just going to be what was it? Not permanent. Opposite of permanent is temporary. I was a temporary overseer, so I was learning little by little. And since I was temporary, I didn't know too much, and I didn't expect to know too much. But I ended up being the permanent overseer, and it's been really like a challenge for me to understand what C.A.B was for them and what they do. But little by little throughout the time, I picked up that um C.A.B is a serious thing, because some people are like, oh, it's just clients. They just do what they do. He. So, but it's not like that. They really take their C.A.B seriously, and I love them because they are very articulate. They think of a lot of things to do for the clinic and for themselves, to be able to go to the movies, or what may have with, like, funds that they used to, the fundraisers, before the pandemic, but they'd have fundraisers with us here at the clinic. And so I hope, Matilde, you're getting like kind of an idea of what you guys can do. And also I have a little guide here by me, by the last the last client advisory board bylaws they had. I didn't even know they had that until maybe a couple years ago. And because, like, as for me, my responsibility is to oversee it, to guide them if there's a little, discussion and about one or the other. There's a, kind of like a, a teeter-totters, like trying to make a decision or trying to correct maybe somebody who's just isn't really going the way they should with C.A.B. They, just kind of like balance out the situation. So, and I'm like the voice for them to Antonio. Yeah. So, I don't know what else to say.
No, and I mean, I was just going to say, I don't know if anyone wants to chime in before I make a comment.
Sure. I wanted to ask. It sounds, Veronica, like the C.A.B also serves like a support group. Sounds like it's also a support group for the members, and I think that's really good. I was wondering, is that support group only limited to the clients, or is it also accessible to other community members?
Meaning outside of the clinic?
Correct. Yes.
No, it's from my knowledge, it's just the clients in the clinic, the people who, or just clients from the clinic. Because why? I don't have that answer. I can find one later, but because it deals with, for C.A.B, their job, I think, or their, like, the purpose is for them to help other clients that are not in C.A.B in other ways. Like, example, one thing they did, C.A.B, was have a little box with a slot, and it said, if you have any issues or comments, it's just an example, it's not exactly what it said. If you have, if you want any changes done in the clinic, or if you have any ideas, it was worded very well, not exactly like mine, but worded well. And they had it upstairs, I think a box upstairs and downstairs. So, with that's helping other clients, that if they have any suggestions, drop it in the box, and C.A.B will, eventually go back and find out if they can answer that client's questions, or help better the clinic, improve the clinic's needs for the client through C.A.B, with little things like that. And also when they would have their fundraisers, like selling the cookies, their homemade cookies here at the, at the clinic, they went ahead and, they went in their little carrito, in their little cart, and clients would be like, oh, what's this? And since the client or the C.A.B members, some of them were volunteers, okay, and also some were slash C.A.B. So, but they would see that, and then they'd say, oh my God, what do you guys, who are you guys? What do you do? You're selling this? And they would say, yeah, we had, and that's where their story would, yeah, we have a C.A.B. We're here to, to raise money. So when if you join the C.A.B, you get to benefit, going somewhere outside the clinic, like, I don't know, to the park. They went to the beach once. Movies, I don't know if they ever did that, because that's when pandemic hit. But just it inspires that it's not just when you're a client, you just come here and you get your services, it's just blue bloom, right? Because you're sick right now, you're ill, you're trying to get your help. But when they see something different on the other side of the client, that's not, the client's a person. They're, they have feelings. They they're not just sick, because that's the stigma. So, when the client and the C.A.B member converse, they share ideas, and that's how the C.A.B members grow in large numbers, throughout the years. So, yeah. But yes.
I'm
Yeah,
glad you
it's
mentioned that, Veronica, because I think a lot of the times, even when you do come across, is very much like you said, the client comes in as, I dealing with the process. But as you mentioned right now, CAB gives you that support where it's no longer myself, but now it's we, like you said right now, we are helping, we are going through this process. And it's very needed when you go through the process that you're not alone. And maybe if I'm not feeling at my best, but I go to Veronica's and we bake some cookies, and then we're able to bring it in the little carrito and show how that hard work of baking, because even that in itself, just the knowledge of you wanting to make the cookie, it takes that motivation. It's no longer like just Erica like not wanting to do anything, but like now there's we, and that becomes you working through that resiliency point that you have someone to go back to. But I think it's huge too, the fact that um I wouldn't say like just little things like putting a box and stuff like that, because I think there's an advocacy aspect of it. And I think kudos to you and to everyone who's working really hard and bringing that light, where maybe is a little bit of darkness, you're kind of like yes or no. So a cookie can go a long way, right?
Yeah, I can.
So thank you, this is great.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
a cookie and
Okay.
cafecito, right,
There
Erica?
you go.
Right, see, we're having coffee with the side of healing. So you bring that cookie and this cafecito, let me tell you.
Goes hand in hand, like your abuelita, right? I think
Yep.
one of the nice things about hearing what Erica's sharing too, I know that Jaime, Manny, Erica, and I had talked about this numerous of times, which is like an overarching theme is these efforts really empower our community. It may look non-traditional, there's creativity, we, hop outside of the box, and we're able to really build in community, be in comunidad, whether it's cafecito con una galletita, con tu abuelita, with a CAB community member, but it really, really aligns with that overarching theme that we have in Service Area 7. And it's really inspiring because whether it's mentorship from your abuelita cafecito around the dinner table, right? Or even mentorship, right? So the CAB is really established. And so now providing that mentorship to the PRC is truly inspiring because, Service Area 7, we're going places. We're like innovative, we're really hitting the ground running. But to be able to have somebody walk alongside with us to say, hey, you know, here are some projects we're working on, or this is what our community. And one of the things that I know we always harp on is the fact that we are stakeholders within our community. We have a connection. We serve in our community, but we're also part of the community. And so to hear that CAB has that core peer component that really aligns and is really attuned to the core values and the mission of Service Area 7 is really, really exciting. So I know that Erika and I, and even Jaime and Manny, talk about, where we're going, what it looks like, but just even in hearing about the efforts is awesome to hear. So thanks again, Erica, Veronica, for sharing, and Erica for, letting me piggyback off of you.
You're welcome.
Veronica, I'm curious.
Yes.
I appreciate the feedback that you're giving everyone and the education you're providing us all about the CAB there. And for the folks that are like listening and watching this, your CAB is attached to the Rio Hondo Mental Health Center, right? That clinic is where you're attached to.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm curious, given your experience in working with being a peer and working with our consumer base there, we're developing this peer resource center. We have 3 of our peers here and their supervisor here. Like, what advice would you or suggestion would you provide them that you think would be useful as we open up some of these type of activities or groups, much like what you've been doing there with the CAB at Rio Hondo, but opening it up to the general public? What would be some of your advice or feedback that you think we could benefit from that would help us be successful in engaging the community at large?
Wow. Just listening to them, listening, and really being mindful, when they have anything going on. I mean, we work with the community, with mental health, people who have mental health conditions, and sometimes the stigma, you forget that there's the stigma, and sometimes I forget that I fall into that as well, that I don't, because I look at them like they're okay, they're fine for me, for me. But when they're going through their moments, we need to stand back and say, okay, what, not giving them space, but just like I said, listening to them and listening to them from your heart, your mind, of course, and just be there and just mentor them. For a successful C.A.B, I think it just depends on, how much we put into it too, as far as like the staff. Just hearing them out. There's been times when I find myself like with the, when I do the C.A.B meetings with my with C.A.B on Fridays, and sometimes I forget and I lose myself with my own whatever is going on with me on this side, and I just say, oh, you know, it's just, another meeting, but there, you have to really put time into being with them that hour or hour and a half, however they would decide to organize the C.A.B, and then and just separating everything from what okay, from here, from what mental health is, yes, but also people that are in C.A.B. People. Notice how I didn't say mental health. So yes, they have conditions, but also they're people, they're persons. And just to keep that in mind, and just not knocking their ideas out the door, or anything like that, because I've learned also that it's, I mean, we can't give them everything, but just little by little we can, grow together with ideas of, of bettering the clinic, of them getting along amongst themselves. Okay, because there's conflict. I mean, we have family, and sometimes families have conflict. Not sometimes, but there's conflict. So we need to learn. And this C.A.B is like an example. How do you say, the blueprint, right? The blueprint behind what's going to come up later. I mean, that's something just to keep in mind. But my main thing is listening. Listen well, and catch those, even though it's through telephone right now, so we don't have it through Zoom. A lot of the C.A.B members don't have all the, I guess, accommodations for that, for seeing, like having a Zoom or Teams or other VC, to have like meetings face to face through virtual. But when it's through phone, it's harder because you don't see the person. You could just hear. But when you hear, like, that's what I mean by listening, then we've accomplished a lot, I think. So yes.
A lot of
Thank you.
that you made, Veronica, and I think part of that, and I'm gonna ask my colleagues Evelyn and Vanessa to share at least some of our experiences so far in our interactions with our community members and the feedback that we've received. And like you said, Veronica, really trying to listen. There's a difference between listening and hearing, between our community members, and some of the implementations that we've had so far with our groups, and some of the groups that we have planned, that have all been requested by the community.
And if I can just chime in, Veronica, a lot of the things that you already mentioned actually are things that our clients, which we refer to as participants or members, have definitely already spoken out about, which isolation was a big one. We've had quite a few participants share that they struggle with interactions with others and socializing due to, feeling anxious or feeling like they don't know how to communicate. And I think that's something great for us to start building a CAB here because it's definitely needed. And it's definitely a way to empower those that are seeking for their voice and just don't quite have it yet. And even when we did our event, which was a community event, we actually ended up getting a participant who's been pretty faithful in our groups. And he just said, when I went, I felt like my voice mattered and I felt like it was heard. And I felt so comfortable. And that's why I've been coming because it empowers you. It gives them an empowerment to understand that we do hear them out. They are people. We're equivalent, right? There is no norm. What that's something that I love to address in group is what is the norm? There is no norm. We're all unique. We're all different, and it's okay to be different. And so thank you so much for your input. And I also had a question. How does someone become a CAB member? Do they have to be voted in or referred? So just because I have quite a few names that I think would be really good for our CAB.
Okay. Okay. So to become a CAB member, it's quite simple. You just need to tell the CAB member leader. They have it's really cool because they have their in their bylaws they have their officers. So they have the president. She's really good. She and her other co-chair president um you know person. I don't know if I'm supposed to be saying names or anything like that, but they have like the secretary, the treasurer, the interpreter or translator, and a few more, coordinator, activities director. They go up there. So the way they would have, if they would like to come into CAB, I don't think there's anything they need to do. I think they could just let if there's anuncios like invitations, flyers on the wall like we used to about CAB. Yeah, if they wanted to join CAB, they could just go up to the front desk and say, "Hey, I'm interested in becoming a CAB member. What is it? Who do I talk to?" So they can either reach out to me, or they could just leave the name, number, and then eventually, or through an email, email their caseworker. That's another way. Caseworker or their therapist, even the doctors. The doctors know that we have a CAB meetings here, or at least back before pandemic. And yeah, it's quite simple. Just let the best way is through their caseworker or their therapist slash doctor.
Thank you, Veronica. I did so many great things you guys are all saying, and it reminds me of a few things. Um, whenever we talk, the eyes that I see this experience through is like my mom's eyes. So I always picture things in the terms of how they would be for my mom, or for my father-in-law and my mother-in-law. Great people, but the community, sometimes is in need of so much support. And so listening to your advice in terms of developing a CAB for the PRC, that would be awesome. That would be really good. Maybe we can even, give you the grand tour, which isn't so grand yet, but still, you can come around, hang out with us, and maybe have some of your good vibes rub off on us. But I really did want to open the floor for like one of our strong silent partners who like tends not to really speak so much but is very knowledgeable. I know Evelyn wanted to say something. So Evelyn, by all means, take the floor, please.
Hi. So I was listening to we're all sharing and stuff, and something I really liked that Veronica shared was the part of actually listening to our community members and stuff. I come from the sector that I was a parent advocate, parent partner on the nonprofit sector for DMH. It was amazing and rewarding. Why? Because we're able to provide what the community needs. I'll be honest, I decided to take this on because I wanted to provide that info. Why? Because I was working with all these families and there was not the resources out there. And when I was told we're going to provide, resources to the community and what the community needs, I was like, I need to make the jump. It was a hard one, but I think it's very rewarding getting this peer resource center started for our families and for everything that we could provide for them. Like you said, the C.A.B, that one's client based. Hopefully, we could get something similar that's open to the community. That they're able to come in and like, hey, we need certain resources or stuff like that. Like the team was saying, we have had a lot of either participants or even community members come in. We've had a couple of actually from the nonprofit sectors, parent advocates bringing their participants into our support groups that we're running and stuff. And it's something because they're like, you know what, there's no support groups out there for them and stuff like that. They're transitioning out of like a certain program, whether it's wraparound, FSP, different programs that there's out there. And there's no support groups that are free and for the community. So I think that has been very rewarding. And it has actually worked as something as I envisioned, like we need this for the families that we like all work with or that we have worked with that are out in our community, just to have a safe place for them to come in and be like, hey, I need a resource, or you know what, I just need somewhere to talk where they're not going to judge me, or like there's not a DCFS worker sitting right next to me that I can't talk because they're going to tell me something. I think that has been very rewarding to me, just to see them coming on an ongoing basis, or even like, I can't make it, but can I call it in and stuff like that? Because we have the hybrid groups, which has been very rewarding as well. I think that's one of the like main components, and I'm really glad that like they have like on at Rio Hondo, they have the client advisory board that it's client based, but I think also for us to add that addition to our team would be awesome, because it would be also in the Huntington Park location. Our service area 7 PRC is mobile, so that means we could possibly even meet them at elsewhere, maybe in the community, maybe somewhere in a different location that we could possibly do. So I really like that. Maybe we could work something out, like I said, rub off some of the ideas that you guys are doing and stuff like that. We could bring it to the PRC.
Yeah, those are really great suggestions. I apologize for stepping in, but I tend to have brain farts. Like, as you ladies are speaking, I'm stealing ideas from you all. And like, I think with our PRC, what we really want to do is it's for the entire service area, because we recognize that our entire service area has that tremendous need. I think I was in meeting with some of the team. Um, you know, how would I say? I disclosed to them that I'm a walker. I walk during my breaks. I walk, and I went walking around the community, and I noticed a couple things, and just had a couple ideas of how to really integrate. Let the community know, number one, that we're there. You know, number one, that we have resources and that we're there to support. I seen a couple of gentlemen at the corner of the block, older people, and it was so cool because as I was walking in their direction, one of the older gentlemen kind of acknowledged me and did the thumbs up thing to me, and I'm like, cool, right? Because I had my badge on and stuff like that. But I started communicating with them and talking to them and just saying, hey, we're here. Uh, you know, I'm not selling anything. It's all free. If you ever want to come in and talk to anybody, just come on in, right? And just kind of establishing that. So I feel again like what we're trying to do, I know there's other PRCs out there, but I think in service area we're trying to take this really deep grassroots approach in developing these relationships with our community, really letting them know that we're there, really modeling our services or the groups that we're going to offer around the needs of the community. So I really appreciate like all the feedback you're giving us, and like I'm super grateful again to be part of this team. Vanessa, Evelyn, and Matile are amazing. They're really really cool, and one of the things I wanted to say before I stop talking again is that one of the things that keeps on dawning on me, and I've had this discussion with other people, is that in a sense, we're all peers. And I think it's really weird that we try to distinguish ourselves. Some people, as not, or some people take offense to it. But I think in a sense, we've all been through something. It's probably not something really severe, it's probably not it. And severe severity depends on the individual who's experiencing that particular experience. But I think to really acknowledge that what we're gonna do goes beyond just providing groups for our community, maybe even for some of our staff, maybe just providing support. Like, a lot of the work we do is really hard, and being able to lend support, uh, provide activities, a place of well-being for our staff to come and hang out sometimes. Maybe we figure out a way to get together and really introduce ourselves, really make those connections as a team to just really figure out how to better our service area in general, but also help out our clients, our community members, and our staff. But enough about my ideas. Let's go back to you and what the rest of you think. I just thought I threw it out there because you all are all so inspiring, and so I'm super grateful just to be a part of this experience that we're having, because it's definitely an experience. But I'll zip it and I'll throw it back to you all.
Hi, ma'am. I'm
I
gonna
think
piggyback off of what you were saying. Um, I don't know if it's the cafecito or I don't know if it's the service area 7 vibes, but I'm gonna jump in. And in saying that, it's really exciting because as we talk about how innovative we are and how we try to address things at the forefront, to hear that, it's not just at one location, but it serves an entire service area is so exciting because we talk about the PRC's mission, the PRC's values, and how it's to create these safe spaces to have be en comunidad and familia, right? And to be able to create these safe spaces where, you know, with these challenges, people can also use that as a brave space, as an area of growth, right? Stakeholder engagement, as well as being able to address it directly one-on-one, as well as in the big community within service areas. So it's really, really exciting. I can like feel the energy on teams. I can feel the energy in my coffee, but it's really, really exciting because service area 7, it's like to see the PRC everywhere from one corner of Sila all the way to the other side is very, very exciting because it truly takes addressing the needs of the community to the forefront. And that's one of the themes that we often hear at the SOL, at the Sila Health Neighborhood, even with school-based mental health, right? Those are a lot of the meetings that we are facilitating and co-facilitating. And one of the themes is come to us. We can't come to you. There are barriers to access. And so this is an innovative approach to be able to really cast that net out. So I'm like really excited. I'm taking the vibes. I'm really excited to run alongside with the PRC and the C.A.B.
I totally agree, Bridget, because I think we're also meeting the individual where they're at, whether you are, I don't know, Pacific and Florence, or you're going to be on the other side of, Salt 7, because I think the spa is very unique. It's a little bit big, but we want to get to every rinconcito, but we also want to get to each client, just like you said, Veronica, right? Listening. And like someone said, like we have 2 ears and one mouth. And there's a reason we have 2 ears, because we need to listen twice before we talk once, right? So I think being able to listen might be so easy for some people, it might be difficult for some of us, right? But I think being able to do that, and like you said it, it's been such an essential part for CAB that I think it helps to have it all along our, Salt 7. And I think we've been able to do it, like Bridget said, whether it was Health Neighborhood, to like stay connected, to like Salt, to like just us going out there and observing, like you said, Jaime, like you were able to see we were those men there. Like I've seen it in my community. I know I live in the Whittier side. My parents live in like, Maywood Highland Park area. And I do see it's very different dynamics. Like there's a lot of individuals in that side of town that play domino. But then they also go a lot to like go have coffee and wind shows. And it's different dynamics that you get to have passing the information. So is there do you guys have like any like I don't want to say engagement, but did you guys mention CAB when it comes to going into the community or like letting people know they're in the clinic besides the flyer, or and did you guys also do it like in Spanish, you know? It's just like a thought that I had. Because just like Jaime, I'm thinking my parents, and my parents are Spanish speaking. My parents will talk to you about la novela and whatever comes out and stuff like that. So I'm trying to see how that goes to engage, because I think it's such an essential part when it comes to it, because culture is very present, and that's something that I've seen within our salt.
Okay. So yes, as far as the language, Spanish speaking persons, they can, I mean, if that's the only language they know, they have their interpreter, the translator. Um, as far as like, yes, when they have gone out and you know, out on their outings, they were pretty much, they weren't really asked by other people, but if the occasion would come up, I know they would. They would engage with others, other their peers. You know, if they would go to the park here, it's down the street, or if they would go to the mall, also across, right? Um, you know, the people, you know, they kind of see them as a group, but as far as like engaging, I mean, if they would be approached, they would let them know where they're from. You know, I mean, that would be the discretion upon them, because remember, we have to keep, I mean, if they were to mention, you know, if I mean, I don't know if they were to mention if they were had a mental health condition or anything like that. I don't know how they will go about it as far as like HIPAA, like the, you know, the information. It gets a little bit like it's sensitive. So, you know, but to this point right now, from what I've walked with C.A.B these past couple of years, the engagement wouldn't be too much. I'm not gonna, you know, sugarcoat it either, but just that's a little something to be talked about as far as like engaging them, engaging other people, because that is the unfortunately, right, the HIPAA, not a unfortunate HIPAA, but just the not everybody, you know, is ready for that next step.
Well, I'll ask a question because I'm curious. Veronica, given your experience and your expertise in working with other consumers, you know, myself, my background is as a clinician, so I know, you know, at our clinics we offer the traditional individual group therapy, medication support services, case management, things of that nature. But from your perspective and in your experience, what are some of the benefits of having peer run or peer led type services, and how are those resources different from what like people would normally or traditionally get out of a mental health clinic?
So okay, so the resources example, can you give me an example of like as far as them wanting the resources,
Well,
or
I
wanting?
guess just more of like your opinion and I guess what you've seen and maybe what you've heard from some of the other consumers and our peers there is what are the benefits of peer run services, support services? Because some people might say, well, I'm already in therapy, I'm already taking my medication. Why should I go to another peer group? What's the benefit of that?
Okay, so I think one of the benefits for a peer run center slash resource, it's the integration, pulling the client out of that notion, well, that mindset that, okay, yeah, I'm getting therapy, I'm getting my case management. Um, why should I be part of or be involved in the peer resource, right? So it's it's pretty much just to help fit in that piece of puzzle to help the individual who's getting the services. It's helping them to remove or reduce whatever symptoms they have, and helping them to kind of just move along with their mental health condition, whatever it may be, and just for them to be able to see that there's other people behind this mental health facility, that there's more action. It doesn't just stop at the doctors, the medication, the therapy, the case management. Here's your bus pass. There's more flavor. There's more. You it's not just one door. There's several doors to be open, and sometimes through one of those doors you'll end up saying, hey, well, what does she do? Because she looks like she's, she likes to work here. I've seen her a couple of times, and she, she's a friendly girl. How can I be like that? We have some clients do that sometimes, or at least a couple of times, from what I've seen and heard. And so, like, oh, well, but just join us. You can be part of C.A.B, see what it's about. The resource, we give resources. We can help you if you're looking for something more detailed, because sometimes, not all, I don't know all the resources out there. I have to, I have to Google, I have to ask, I have to pay attention. I'm at home listening to the television, channel 5234, with all the, the resources they give there. It's like, bombarded for the clinic, and so that, for us to get to that point, for the client to what benefit, it's that, what I just said. Just it doesn't just stop with just the therapy. If they really want to get better, they need to integrate themselves more, at a peer run center, at a C.A.B, volunteering also. So, volunteering, and it doesn't necessarily have to be volunteering at DMH. There's volunteering outside volunteer programs, which also the peer run center can help, help that person. They say, well, I don't feel like I'm not a good asset here, or I'm not a good, I don't think DMH is what I want to volunteer for. Is there anything else? And that's where us, or the case, or the community health workers come in and say, okay, let's sit down, let's do some research together. And there we go. So yeah, I think that would be the best way.
And thanks for saying that, because I think, at least I'll speak for myself, and I know when we were working to trying to engage more of our peers to be co-chairs for our service area leadership team, for our SALT team. We had several peers that were active in our service area, but also many of them making the statement, like you were saying, like, I'm not ready for that. I don't think I can do that. And I do think it's critical, like what you're saying. It's being able to show what the other side of it is, right? It's not just always just being the client or the patient receiving the medications and the services, but there is another side to life, to being a human being. And I think it's useful to be able to incorporate, like what you're doing with the C.A.B, in a sense, mentoring or coaching up our community at large, whether they identify themselves as a consumer, as a client, as a patient, as a customer, whatever it may be. But just looking at them as human beings and letting them know that part of living is being part of just taking part in life itself, right? So I appreciate you sharing with us, because I do think sometimes we might forget that when we're just focusing on delivering services, but sometimes it's just forgetting about the service aspect and just being there for each other as people and as human beings. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
If I can piggyback off of Manny, that's how exactly why I see the peer center, particularly with aftercare, right? Because there's a lot of our who are clients who now become participants. The peer resource center, they may not be necessarily eligible or in need of continuing services, but we're a support group where they can continue to practice their coping skills, to be able to practice, socialization, to integrate themselves into the community. And that's been a big one, even for like our peer group, where, people are just coming in who are not necessarily receiving services, but still need that some type of support. Whether that's socialization, whether that's, building more coping skills. I mean, mental health is not always something that can be cured. It's something that we live with, and we want to be part of society. We're still able to be part of society and be productive people in our community. And I think that's where the Peer Resource Center comes in, to give them almost an empowerment, like to let them know that their voice is heard, that they are someone in the community, regardless of what you're going through. And just like Jaime said, we all are peers. We have all gone through lived experiences. And even being part of like our peer support group, you see it. They're all going through different aspects of life, different issues of life, but coming together as a community and just saying, hey, I've been through that. I understand what you're going through. Not only with mental health, but also situations around it that, affect our mental health. So I think the Peer Resource Center is somewhere not only to socialize, not only to gain experience in practicing those social skills. I had someone mention, I don't really go out. I don't really have friends. And I said, well, then welcome. We're all here to be friends. This is where you learn to be a friend, and them saying, well, I struggle with socializing. Like I'm always double guessing what I'm saying. And that's where we tell them, hey, be you. You don't have to double guess what you're saying. Be you, because you don't want to make friends with someone who's expecting you to be a certain way, and that is not you. Be you. We're all unique. So that's why I love the PRC. Like, we're here for everybody and anybody, whether you're receiving services or you're not, we're here. And being in a group where you have quote unquote clients and participants, you can't see the difference. I can't sit there and distinguish, oh, that's a client, that's a participant. Or it just comes to show you that we all are peers and we're all part of our community. So just wanted to share that.
I think at the end of the day, too, like you said, Vanessa, is being able to have that support, right? Like, it's normal that we might have, some difficulties with transitioning or why not. And I think, just like you mentioned to Veronica, being able to see the individual more than just an appointment with the psychiatrist, more than an appointment with the therapist or why not. And, a lot of the times we do come across, and I think now that, especially the last 3 years, we've gotten to see how important it is, to take care of our mental health and being able to be there for each other. And I think like, even like, I think I seen like a quote somewhere that says success is getting up one more time than you fall down. And it's true. And I think at the end of the day is being able to know that I could reach out to the, PRC, or I have someone or somewhere that I could go. Like I had said before, it's no longer I, but I'm able to incorporate into my day-to-day we, and being able to just have a structured day or being able to do things. Because I think at times we might not be able to be empowered to do stuff for ourselves, but then little by little, like you're able to do things like, oh, I'm gonna go to the PRC and do things with Veronica and Matilde. And next thing you know, you have that skill set, that all of a sudden you're starting to create that leader that you did not know you had inside of you. Next thing you know, like, you look back and you're like, oh, I'm able to, like, 5 people are listening to me. But I think most definitely meeting the individual where they're at, because every day is very different. Yesterday was totally different than today for me. I know. But I think seeing it like that for everyone and knowing that it's okay and it's going to be okay, if you have the right information. And I think the PRC has that you can show up and be like, I'm not all up to par. I need help,
Yeah, and I think that's particularly true given the situation that we've been in over the last 2.5 years, with this pandemic. I think it's been like that great equalizer, if you will, where it's really shown us as a society how vulnerable we really are. And in engaging with the community, with other departments, with other entities, and hearing more so, like, there's more of a appreciation for mental health services, because now with the pandemic, people who've always had, like, well, I'm not mentally ill, I don't have those type of issues, People have been isolated. We've all been isolated, and we've all been struggling, either whether it's fear of getting sick or the trauma of watching your loved ones, your people that you know, or just even watching the news on a regular basis and seeing so much tragedy around us and the trauma that affects us. And now being able to, I think even as a system, we've evolved a mental health system where historically we've always been, you have to meet this box, this diagnosis in order to get services, where now these type of peer services, the C.A.B, the Peer Resource Center, where there's support services, but you don't have to fall into a diagnosis. We're going to treat you as a person, not as a diagnosis, not as a label that we're going to give you. And that, I think, is, if anything, there's an evolution of some of this that's coming out of this pandemic. And I'm hopeful that that'll be a good thing for us in general. But I as a mental health clinician and as an administrator, I can tell you that I'm more hopeful than ever given these type of services, because it's not your traditional, this is what you get, your cookie cutter, you're getting your therapist, you're getting your case manager, you're getting your psychiatrist. It's really looking at the person as a whole and trying to bring people together to support one another. So I am really grateful that Veronica's here to kind of feed us that experience and to lead this conversation, because quite frankly, if we look at what the C.A.B has been doing, it's really the foundation that has helped people like myself advocate for the need for the Peer Resource Center. So we really have these type of services that are developing in great thanks to the work that you've been doing there at Rio Hondo for quite some time. It's laid the foundation for this. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to kind of, like they were saying, kind of have some of that experience and expertise rub off, and maybe use you as one of our subject matter experts when we're looking to really try and continue to develop more of these resources for our community. So thanks, Veronica, for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And definitely, I think one of the biggest themes for me, for at least for this podcast, has been empowerment, and the way in which C.A.B has empowered our clients to, if they don't feel comfortable being listened, being heard, giving them that opportunity to, work up, that ability to say something and to be listened. Because if they're not comfortable, or they're not in a position in which they're able to express what their needs are, then there's really no way in order for us to really assist them in the way that they should be. And likewise, I think at the PRC so far, a lot of the groups and a lot of the activities that we have begun and started are for the community, feedback from the community. And so, we really are listening to the feedback, from our community, and also from our staff. Because even though, C.A.B has the word client in it, a client is a stakeholder. They are also part of those both groups. I see it as a client, but they're also community members. So that's why I'm so passionate about, being involved with C.A.B, because it's such a gray line, I guess, between, both buckets, that I really appreciate all the things that you've been doing for C.A.B and for Rio Hondo. And, kind of just to tie it back in, what would you like to share, with our listeners, about C.A.B, about Rio Hondo, and about the different ways in which, we can all collaborate with the PRC?
One thing for sure I would like to say is, don't ever lose hope. Always have that even as dark as it seems, don't ever lose hope. Because at the end, I know it's been said, but it's true. There is a beam on the other side of that wall, that whatever situation you're going through. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. Recovery takes time. But I feel from the steps that I walked in, it having a support system with at least one person that could be a peer-run center community worker. It could be someone else in the facility that could be your support. When right now, I feel there's a lot of isolation, right? Because of the pandemic, even before, of course, but then the pandemic hit and all these just ricocheted down. So I feel there's a lot of isolation in the peer run center and C.A.B and also volunteering. Those are great ways of how to become connected with yourself, because you're connected with others. When you disconnect yourself from others, eventually you'll disconnect yourself from society. So we need to bring everybody together. How? That's where we come in as peer support. And us having that mindset of hopefulness for them. Maybe they're not hopeful, but we are. That's something we can work with. And it brings them back. And of course, if they're not around, what do? Hey, how are you? What's going on? A phone call. So, I mean, bridging everything back together takes time. When you have someone who's had chaotic life behaviors and all that, and now they want to come back, but they can't because they just don't know how, that's where we come in. Either as clinicians, peers, caseworkers, the therapist, and the doctor, of course, if there is a doctor involved. But we have to remain hopeful for them so they could get that sense of hope from us.
Veronica,
Thank you.
yes, you know what? That's so inspiring, and thank you for your passion, honestly, because it's needed. Passion is needed in what we do, and
yes.
yeah, we need it. We need hope, and we need passion, and our clients need it too. And if they don't have it, let them feed it off of us. And I think that's so important what you said, because that's something that I constantly hear from the participants, that they struggle to build connections. They struggle with socialization, and it makes them feel quote unquote a normal, which gives them more fear not to build a connection. And so we have been collaborating. I had shared it before our supervisor, Jaime, came in. I had shared it with Antonio, like, hey, maybe us taking our group to the park one day, just to let them get out, get some fresh air, just giving them an outdoor setting to get comfortable with. And that's something that, a lot of our participants are really interested in. For us too, we have to build that rapport and that connection with them. I'm very big about sharing my team's number with them and saying, if you ever need to talk to somebody, call me. I'm not a clinician, but if you need someone to talk to, like, we're reachable. That's what we're here for. And yeah, I do get some calls sometimes. And, sometimes you just need someone to talk to. And if when you don't have a friend, then who do you go to? And just letting them know, like, here's my hand, extend it out, and building that connection or rapport makes a huge difference. So thank you so much for sharing that, because it's just like confirmation of exactly what our participants have been saying. We want connections. We don't know how to build connections. We want to socialize, but we don't know how to socialize. And I think that that's, as the Peer Resource Center, which I love, is that we're unique and we tailor to our participants. That's our job, is to tailor towards them. Whatever it is that you need, if we don't have it, then we'll provide a resource. So I think it's so important, like you said, that's why the Peer Resource Center is important, because we're here to hear their voices, their concerns. And once we put it into action, you see that confidence in them, like, wow, like they really took into consideration what I said. All of our groups were recommended by the peers. Mindfulness, the peer group, the co-occurring disorder, they were all from peer recommendations. One participant shared he wasn't ready to go into rehab and has decided to come into our groups instead. And his wife shared, hey, it's working for us. This is working for us. So thank you for having a peer resource center, because my husband wasn't ready for that. So that's what we're here for, to meet their needs. So thank you so much, Veronica. Like, I think I'm super excited to see what our CAB's going to look like. and your input is definitely welcome. And I'm just so excited to connect with you. So thank you for being here.
I agree, Vanessa. I think, Veronica, when you were talking right now, like I even got the chills. I was like, thank you so much for saying what you said, because like you felt it. And I think you said you started many years ago, with this, and it's kind of like you planted that seed, and like now it's growing, and I know I talk a lot metaphorically speaking, but like now has grown to this tree that has given us shade, and we're like reaching out to you too, so we can know how do we get a semillita or get that branch so we can continue to have it. But very thankful, because it's true. I think if there's no cookie cutter. I think at the end of the day, we've been able to see, like, that client at the time, whatever they're dealing with, it might need a jacket. Someone else might just need a scarf. Someone else might just need, that's the way I see it. And I know I speak very metaphorically speaking, but I think at the end of the day is meeting them where they're at, because maybe I don't need you to give me anything. I just need to sit down with me. And I think, like you mentioned, Vanessa, being able to tailor to the needs of the client and meet them where they're at, because if they want to just like sit down and we are just gonna watch la novela, or we just want to listen to Jose Alfredo Jimenez and sing to it, we're gonna sing to it. I mean, that's the way I see it. I think a lot of the times within my sessions, I'm a clinician. I do get that creative, and we're just gonna sing to Por tu maldito amor forever. Then we'll sing it, but it's just being creative to bring mental health where they're at. And I'm very thankful, Veronica, that you guys are able to have that outside the box and being able to say, see me more as the individual, because there is more
Yeah.
to me than these symptoms and these behaviors. There's a lot of strains. I know we're very strain based here at Spot 7, and we're super innovative. That's why you have a podcast. So I'm hoping that everyone by now can share it with someone, or press pause and go get someone, because it's a great, great, great way to start a conversation about, whether you want to be interested in the cab or you want to be interested in mental health. So thank you, Veronica.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'm speechless. You guys have said it all. I honestly, going back to a comment Manny made, um, and just thinking in terms of for example, the podcast. When we started the podcast, it was a child, and now it's grown up, and it's the same way I feel about mental health. Manny said it. It's changed. We're adapting to the needs of our community, which I think I apologize to the team, but for a while I was harping on that. Like, we need to be adaptable to the needs of the community, right? And I think this is what we're trying to do, and everything you've shared, Veronica, really speaks to that. So like we're really grateful for having you on here and being able to share all your advice and the great input you've had. But definitely, I'm just like, no tengo palabras. You guys have done an amazing job. I'm really just like listening. I enjoy sitting in the back and just hanging out with you all, playing DJ. But I'm not sure if anybody else wants to share any last words. It doesn't seem like it, but we've been talking for a bit. But I think that's good because it just flowed naturally, and I think that's what we've been really trying to achieve here. So I'm not sure, Matilde, Manny, Brigida, anybody have any last words?
I'll just echo what everyone else is saying, which is thank you to Veronica for her inspirational words, because I can share from my own, having had the week I've had at work, listening to your words of hopefulness and just positivity has filled me already with hope for this week. So I personally appreciate it tremendously for your inspirational words. Um,
You.
but I'll also say that I'm going to have to give a task to Jaime that maybe for next time, Erica's requests were pretty specific on some Jose Alfredo Jimenez going on there. So that was pretty specific there, Erica. So it seems like one of these podcasts is going to have to be incorporating some sort of karaoke or something, and Erica's going to have to lead us through that. So
You
thank
got
you.
it. You got it.
It will
Okay.
have to be our first podcast at the park with the karaoke setup. We're gonna move forward and make some magical moments happen. I really feel it, but this is really a good way to, I don't know, to progress. I'm really speechless, and just really feel honored to be in everybody's presence. But I don't want to interrupt anybody else. I'm not sure, Veronica, if you wanted to say anything else. Matilde, if you want to close it, it's up to everyone.
I just want to say thank you, each and every one of you, Manny, Jaime, Brígida, Vanessa, Evelyn, Rerica, y Matilde. Thank you so much for having me here. It's been an honor, a pleasure, and thank you for inviting me.
And I think with that, I can't find any better way to kind of conclude this podcast than with Veronica's hopeful and positive words. And I just want to thank Jaime for allowing me to facilitate today's podcast. It was really fun. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. And I can't wait for next month's podcast and what great topic we're going to be discussing.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. And with those last words, we really just want to say bye from Service Area 7. Thank you for listening to our eighth podcast, and continue supporting us. And by all means, visit our website. We have a page for everything: our PRC, our Peer Resource Center, all of our resources, all of the special projects are listed on there. But definitely thank you to the team: Erika, Manny, Matilde, Vanessa, Veronica, thank you for joining us. And as always, Brigida,
Pleasure.
you guys are amazing. Thank you. And bye, everyone.